Welcome back to the Imperfectionist Podcast. My name is David Rendall, and I have a question for you. What is your vacation personality? Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, how do you like to vacation? What are you trying to accomplish, or, this is sort of crucial, not accomplish on your vacation? It is about 7 o'clock in the morning in North Carolina where I live, but I was up at 3 a.m. because I just got back from a trip with my daughters where we went to Paris in France, we went to Brussels and Antwerp in Belgium, then we went to Amsterdam in the Netherlands, we went to Cologne in Germany, and stopped in Luxembourg on the way back to Paris, where we flew back yesterday. And we did 10 days, 5 countries, 2 nights each in each country, mostly rented a car. And I was up at 3 a.m. because it's a 6-hour time change, and it's already, mid-afternoon there. So I couldn't sleep through the night, and I need to head out to Texas, which is why I'm wearing my pink cowboy hat from Sarah Tumlinson Page. Back to Texas for the second or third time already this year to MC boot camp for TMT, one of my biggest and best clients. So if you're watching, you see I got my pink jacket, I got my pink cowboy hat, I got my J.R. Ewing sunglasses, for those of you old enough for a Dallas television show reference. And so we were just on vacation, and I mentioned this before briefly. I realized that a few years ago that families can have vacation personalities, and our family realized that we didn't like to do things every single day. For example, if you're at Disney, go to a park every single day, be gone early in the morning till late at night, barely fall asleep, drag yourself out of bed the next day. We didn't like that, so we started doing 1 day on and 1 day off, and that really worked for our family. The 2 basic vacation personalities for an individual or a family are all day, every day is personality number 1. You wake up at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., you've got a packed itinerary, you've probably got directions to things, you have tickets, you have appointments, you have times, you have schedules. It feels like a school trip of some kind. It feels like work. It might even be busier than the work that you do with less downtime because you feel the need, or you just desire, you love to sort of pack it in, soak it up, check things off the list. And somebody loves to organize it and sort it out. And the other basic vacation personality is toes in the sand. Maybe go to the pool, maybe go to the beach. Maybe not too much in 1 day, maybe order room service instead of even going to a restaurant. The goal of vacation isn't to do things, it's to not do things. It's to not do anything. It's to relax and rest. Now, if you're thinking personality, you see that those match pretty well with introvert personality likes to relax and recharge, and extrovert personality likes activities and likes people. So, and then you can also obviously be a mix, which is kind of what our family was. We like to do something, but we don't like to do too much, and we don't like to overdo it. We like a little bit of each. And then it's easy for people to go, yeah, that's the way we are. But that's not necessarily true. There are people with strong preferences for one or the other. And especially if you're talking families, there's 1 or 2 members with strong preferences, oftentimes for one, and then other family members with preferences for the complete opposite, which is where the half and half approach comes in. But then in that case, neither, person in the group gets exactly what they wanted. And so this is important to think about when you think about your vacation, your time off, but also your personality isn't just your vacation personality. I didn't really even realize this until I think it was about 10 years ago. I was taking my wife to Hawaii for our 20th wedding anniversary, and we'll be celebrating our 30th coming up next month in May. And she wanted to go to Hawaii. And so we got a place on the island of Kauai, And as we were getting ready to go on the trip and planning it, I said, what do you want to do while we're in Kauai? She'd never been to Hawaii. I'd been once or twice before. She'd never been, so I thought she'd want to see a bunch of stuff and do a bunch of stuff. And she was like, what do you mean? And I said, well, do you want to go hiking? Do you want to check out museums? Do you want to go to parks? Do you want to go golfing? I knew she didn't want to do that, but you get the idea. What are the activities? Do you want to go on tours? Do you want to go rafting? Do you want to go kayaking? Do you want to look for seashells? Do you want to see animals? Thinking that her idea of a good vacation is doing stuff. Do you want to learn to surf? Do you want to go paddle boarding? We're going to come back to that. And she said, I thought we'd go to the pool and go to the beach. And I said, okay, so Monday we go to the pool, go to the beach. What do you want to do on Tuesday when we have a week in Hawaii and you've never been there before? And she said, well, I want to go to the pool and go to the beach, maybe mix it up, go to the beach, then go to the pool. And I was like, okay, I think I know where this is going, but what do you want to do on Wednesday? And clearly, as you've been able to predict, she wanted to go to the pool and go to the beach, maybe mix up the order. So that's not my style at all, and it kind of caught me off guard, and I never really thought about it that way, that people have such strong preferences, and certainly mine was a strong preference for the opposite. In this vacation that I just took with my daughters, I even looked up the sunrise and sunset to see how many hours of daylight we had while we were on the trip. 7 a.m. it turned out to 8:30 p.m. in northwestern Europe, and I was like, yeah, get as much as we can done and see as much as we can before it gets dark. And as it turned out, my daughters were not interested in going until dark, getting up for the sunrise or seeing the sunset. And we'll get to that in a minute. And so that's kind of my perspective, and that's my desire. So we needed to come up with a plan for our vacation to Kauai that fit both people. And so what we did is we came up with a one activity per day plan, that she's sort of okay with doing one activity. One day it was just 30 minutes on a helicopter, and that counted as the activity for the day. One time it was eating dinner at a restaurant that wasn't at the hotel, because that meant getting ready and leaving. And the other thing that makes this a good fit is I like to do stuff and my wife doesn't like to do stuff. And she also likes to be completely alone. And that might seem weird on a vacation for your anniversary to say, well, you shouldn't be alone or do things separately. But I think that's precisely what a good relationship is giving the other person space or opportunity to do what they want to do and to be who they are and accept them for that, and not forcing them to do things your way, and also vice versa. So we do one activity together during the day or during the night. And then she would do her own thing and I would do a lot of my own thing. Now, sometimes I'd stay around or go to the pool or go to the beach. I don't mind that. But just in one day, to give you a sense of my personality, I went, got a surf lesson, which is something I'd always wanted to do. I was terrible at it, but managed to get up on the board a few times. I got I went paddle boarding for the first time. I tried a new restaurant called Puka Dog, where they make these unique kind of hot dog, kind of bratwurst things in a unique Hawaiian way, and that was amazing and delicious. And I went golfing, and I went for runs, and I explored. And that's how I like to do my vacations. So that's when I realized we have vacation personalities. Now, that's because we have personalities. And I think so a great way, if you're wondering what's my actual personality, this is a great way to think about it is how do I like to do vacation? Do you put together a spreadsheet for your vacation? Or are you the total opposite, where you decide at the last minute where you're even going to go? Or maybe you show up at the airport like my friends Eugene and Regina Thompson and just look at the board and go, where are we going to go? And what are we going to do? And how long are we going to stay? And maybe you don't have any plans at all. But regardless of whether you have plans, that's part of your personality. Do you like to have plans or not have plans? Is what do you want to do with those plans? Do those plans say, toes in the sand, do a lot of nothing, take 7 days off, put away the laptop, put away the phone? Or do those plans say, take this tour and ride this bus and go to this place and check out this famous tourist attraction or landmark or whatever it happens to be? And so when I took my daughters on this trip to Europe, I asked them that before we started, is what kind of a vacation do you want? And some of this is going around on social media. People say vacations are when you don't do anything, right? It's a vacation from your life. And a trip is when you're trying to see stuff. And they were like, well, this is our first time to Europe, and we're starting in Paris, and you got to see the Eiffel Tower, and you have to see Notre Dame, and you have to see the Champs-Élysées and the Arc de Triomphe. And so we're happy to, go on a trip. We're not expecting to sit around the hotel all day. Why would you go to Europe if you want to sit around all day? And again, it's easy to start thinking of this in terms of right and wrong, right? If I want to be a little like moralistic, not really moralistic, but if I want to have, a sense that I'm doing it right, why go to Europe or Hawaii to sit at the pool and sit at the beach? Why not just go to the coast of North Carolina and sit at the pool and sit at the beach? If you're not going to do anything that's specific to that place, why go to that place? And again, for some people psychologically, it feels good to know you were in Hawaii when you were at the pool and at the beach. But it's just like when people have McDonald's in a foreign country instead of trying out some kind of restaurant that's local to where they are. Why go to some other country if you're just going to eat McDonald's, right? But there are reasons, and those people are just different than me. And I have to learn, and I have learned to accept that and to understand it to the best of my ability. And so I took my daughters on this trip. I learned a little bit of a lesson from my wife on a trip we took to Utah last summer, where we saw 5 national parks and visited our friends in Boise. And we did a lot of driving, and we were in different hotels every night. And she said that one thing she likes is at least being in a hotel for 2 nights and kind of having a home base. And really, she'd like to have one home base and kind of do everything from that, kind of a hub and spoke model where you kind of have a base camp. And again, instead of trying to push, right and wrong or my way versus your way, I do think it's helpful to have these discussions. In Freak Factor, we talk about acceptance and appreciation of other viewpoints and of also of your own, not just saying, okay, well, I guess I'm wrong. The other person wants to do it this way. So with my daughters on this trip, I scheduled 2 nights in each place. We never were at a hotel for less than 2 nights. And we would do our kind of exploring from that base. And in Europe, things are very close together. So it was only a couple hours from Paris up to Brussels. It was only a couple hours, less than a couple hours from Brussels up to Amsterdam. It was only a couple hours to Cologne in Germany, only a couple more hours to Luxembourg. And it was kind of a little loop if you know your geography. We went up north from Paris to Belgium, and from Belgium to Netherlands, and then over and down to Cologne, and then down to Luxembourg and back to Paris, and never had to drive over 3.5 hours. And most of the time we're driving an hour and a half or 2 hours in between places. So we had a plan, but very quickly it became clear that my daughters weren't as interested in seeing the landmarks. They weren't as interested in walking around a ton. They weren't as interested as I was in seeing the statues. I'm not a big one for we have to go through the museums and pay for all the things and have tickets, but I at least like to stop by and see, what are the things to see to get a sense of what's going on in Brussels and the history of Brussels, or what's cool in Brussels? What are we, the classic, like we talked about in Paris, I want to see, if I'm in a new city, I want to see their Eiffel Tower. I want to see their Champs-Élysées. I want to see their Arc de Triomphe. What are their big cathedrals? What are their big museums? What are their big government buildings? When I took a vacation with my wife to Europe a few years ago while I was speaking, it wasn't really a vacation, I guess, but I brought her along and we did as much as we could. In every big city I was in, I took a long run in London past all the major things, London Bridge and Westminster Abbey and the Shard and Buckingham Palace and all these things. I would take like a run, usually, 10 to 12 miles in the morning when nobody else was around, and see all these things on my own. And that felt really good to check those things off the list and to do those things and also get some exercise along the way and also not have a bunch of crowds to have to fight through the whole way. And that's my idea of a good time. I saw those things. I've been to those places. I have a memory of that. It's not just a picture. And then when I watch movies, I think it's awesome to be like, oh, I've been to the Eiffel Tower. Oh, they're driving across London Bridge. I've been there. That feels good to me, right? So that's how I'm trying to do a vacation. But I saw that my daughters weren't as excited about that. My one daughter wanted to go to yarn stores because she loves to knit and crochet and stuff. And she was happy once she'd found the yarn stores that she wanted to go to and check them out. My other daughter wanted to check out bookstores and look for books. She studied French for years and she can speak some French, and she spoke some French while we were over there. And that was one of her goals. And she wanted to go to bookstores, and they weren't as worried about seeing the whole museum or even seeing that much of the museum. We went to the Louvre on our first day in Paris, and we weren't there for that long. And I kind of showed them some of the big stuff, the Egyptian stuff, and a cool statue that I really like and that I have a copy of, and I have a poster of here behind me, kind of off camera. They were fine with a couple hours at the Louvre. And then we went to do other stuff. We got to see something really cool. We went to Versailles, which I'd never been to before. They liked that, but we didn't need to stay all day. We did about an hour-long tour through got the audio guide through the palace, and we walked around the grounds, but they were ready to go fairly quickly. My one daughter was pretty excited about checking out restaurants and what we were going to eat, which normally isn't something that I care as much about. In my mind, I've been to a place when I've sort of seen their major stuff, and I'll kind of eat whatever there is around, and I'll try out the local stuff. I've eaten all sorts of crazy stuff over the year. I've had brains in Pakistan, and I've eaten weird things in all sorts of places and tried out things that even the local people couldn't explain to me. But I'm not as concerned about the food. But what I saw really quickly is my daughters wanted and needed a lot more downtime than I had planned. They like to chill. They like to relax. They like to decompress. They like to sort of process what they were experiencing. My one daughter did an amazing job. She takes these little video clips throughout the day instead of snapping photos, just 3, 4, 5-second videos, sometimes 1-2 second videos. And she puts them together with a song, and she's very particular about choosing the right song and the order of the clips and capturing the sense of the day. And then she posts them for us, and then we share them on social media, on our stories, and they're amazing, but she needs time to do that. She needs energy to do that. And both of them also were a little bit, not overwhelmed by the crowds, but not loving the huge crowds in Paris and throngs of people in Brussels. We happened to be there on the week leading up to Easter. A lot of people are doing spring break, and the weather's just starting to get nicer. And so, it was really busy, and we're also going to, world famous places and world famous cities. And so it's going to be crowded. And after a while, they're ready to be back to the room. They're ready to be quiet. They're ready to be by themselves. And my one daughter, after a few days, was ready to be home, right? Like, it was nice to travel, but I don't need a 10-day trip. She probably preferred a 5 or 6-day trip, right? So that's part of your vacation personality. Are you be gone for as long as possible and soak up as much as you can, or be gone for a shorter amount of time and maybe have time to come home and even have a couple of days off back at home before you get back to work and into the swing of things. My daughters call it getting settled, and they're like that if they even come to our house for the weekend and go back to their place. They leave. They don't leave at 9:30 on Sunday night and have work the next day. They leave in the early afternoon so they can go back and get settled and set things up for the week and make their plans and get their clothes out and whatever. they like to get back to that place, right? So what is your vacation personality is also tells you a lot about what's your sense of home and belonging and connection to a certain place, and how much do you want or need to sort of be there. And for my one daughter, she really wanted to be home after a while. It doesn't mean she was miserable, and she didn't hate it, but we learned and she learned that a shorter vacation is probably better for her than a longer vacation, where again, in my mind, when I saw what days they could have off and we had 2 weekends on either side, we left at the earliest possible moment on Friday when she was done working, and we came back on the Sunday afternoon so we could get the most time in Europe to again experience the most of that. That's my mindset. And that isn't everybody's mindset. You don't have to, carpe the diem. You don't have to seize the day. You can sleep the diem. You can value naps. You can value rest. You can value time to journal and to relax and to talk and to, not do anything. And we definitely started doing that. You can even make this adjustment on a vacation. We started doing that mid-vacation. Very early on, I saw what was happening. They were comfortable communicating that to me, and we started doing less and less each day. We started being out for shorter and shorter periods of time, going back to the hotel earlier and earlier, and having more of that time to be quiet, be alone, decompress, process. We started doing less of the lists of things, of the top 10 things to see in Brussels. We'd see 4 or 5 of them. We'd see the things that were the closest together. They were happy to drive by some of the things and not need to walk by it, get out and go see it. They were happy to sort of check it off the list. And that's another one of my, big vacation personalities, is I love to check things off the list and say all the things that I've done. So I think a good way to explain our 3 different vacation personalities is we'd have conversations about what did you like the most. And when we finished the trip, I asked them both, what did you like the most? And my oldest daughter's favorite day was Amsterdam, where we took a boat tour on the canals in Amsterdam. If you know, they're below sea level, kind of like New Orleans, and they have tons of canals, kind of like you'd see in way down in South Florida, where the land has sort of been created in and around the water, and there's almost these roadways of water that people use to get around, and that's one of the primary features of Amsterdam. And so we took this boat tour. And my daughter sat and did her knitting during the tour and enjoyed seeing the city without having to walk, but also in an open boat and hearing a little bit about it, but being able to see it and kind of have this slow kind of movement through without a ton of effort. And she also got to visit a couple yarn shops and found a bunch of stuff, whereas some she didn't really like them or didn't really find anything. The ones in Amsterdam were just perfect, and she bought a bunch of stuff, maybe even more than she expected. She needed an extra suitcase to get home with all the stuff that she got, but mostly from that one place, even though she visited a bunch of stores along the way. So her favorite day was a 1-hour boat tour, and 1 or 2 visits to yarn shops in Amsterdam. And we weren't really out in the city for more than a few hours in a city that they'd never been to before. My other daughter's favorite day. So think about that, kind of chilled, kind of relaxed, kind of short, only a couple of things, pretty low key, not about the walking, not about seeing the palace, not about seeing the old buildings, not about seeing the statues, not about seeing this famous landmark, not about learning about the history. It was about one of her hobbies and getting something unique and local to that hobby from the Netherlands, from another country, and also seeing the city, but in kind of a chill, low-key, relaxed way. And then my other daughter's favorite day was also in the Netherlands. There's a place called Keukenhof, which is this attraction. I don't know what you call it, botanical gardens, but it's only open for 8 weeks a year to show off the tulips there. And if you know about tulips, they're perennials, and they're only out for a couple of weeks a year. So they're open 8 weeks a year in Keukenhof. from mid-March to mid-May. My wife and I were able to go a few years ago when I spoke over there, and we were there a little late. So some of the tulips had bloomed and already kind of died and been cleared out, but they did have an amazing display. They just have these miles and miles of just tulip fields, and if you've never seen it that way, but they also have these very cultivated gardens of just these beautiful combinations of tulips and other kinds of flowers that you can go and see, and you can see the stereotypical classic, Dutch windmill and have Dutch food and experience all these things. And we went at the perfect time, mid-April, right in the center kind of it. So things hadn't died, but they had also bloomed. If you're there a little early, nothing's bloomed. So it's just fields and fields of green, which you've seen before. So it's not as exciting. And my middle daughter's favorite day was Kuchenhof. She liked the beauty. She liked the flowers. She liked the fountains. And she's the one that made all the videos. And then my favorite day was the day that we had breakfast at our hotel in Amsterdam. We drove to Cologne, Germany. We saw one of the most visited castles in the world and the most visited landmark in Germany called the Cologne Cathedral. We had a nice lunch, and I had schnitzel for the first time on the Rhine River, on a restaurant overlooking the Rhine River, which you grow up hearing about in the history books when you learn about Germany, mostly related to the wars. And that seemed just like an iconic experience to have. And it felt cool to know that I've been on that river and I got to try a German food on that river. My daughter had Fanta and Coke combination, which they had on the menu as diesel, and that sounded fun and it was delicious. And so she was trying new stuff. I was trying new stuff. My other daughter tried new foods throughout the trip. And then we finished up in Cologne, and our hotel was going to be in Luxembourg, which was a couple hours away. And so then we had dinner at the end of the day while the sun was still up in Luxembourg. And so we had breakfast in Amsterdam, lunch in Cologne in a different country, dinner in Luxembourg in a different country. And that was really cool to me. That felt cool. 3 countries in 3 days. That's impossible to do in the United States. Unless you're on a private jet, you're not going to get Canada, America, and Mexico. And you're certainly not going to do it by car. And you're certainly not going to do it in a couple of hours. So that felt really cool. And I really enjoyed that. And that was sort of my favorite day, was accomplishing all those things, experiencing all those things, seeing all those things. It was a full day, start to finish. It wasn't relaxed. It wasn't low key. Now it was for them because I was doing a lot of the driving, so they could chill in the car. They could relax in the car. They could knit in the car. They could work in the videos in the car. But I wasn't exhausted by it. And remember, your personality is what energizes you. It's not what you do. It's what doing that does to you, right? It's not what you do, it's how doing that makes you feel. That's personality. And so doing all of that activity today and experiencing all those things in a day made me feel good, made me feel happy, made me feel fulfilled. And also being there with my daughters and having that experience with my daughters and knowing that they got to experience that and that they had a good day and that I helped them to have a good day and facilitated that opportunity for them. Felt good to me. So as you think about, I think self-awareness is so important. It's one of the key elements of the freak factor is awareness. It's one of the first A's in the framework, awareness, knowing yourself and understanding yourself. Understanding your vacation personality is a great way to start understanding your personality. And again, it's not what can you do on vacation. It's not, no, that's fine. I can go to dinner again. No, that's fine. I'll go on the tour. Or, oh, well, so-and-so's no fun because they wanted to stay behind. No, can we respect and appreciate, right? Accept and appreciate. Those are 2 more of the A's from the Freak Factor and Pink Goldfish framework. Can we accept and appreciate other people and say, hey, so-and-so doesn't want to do all those activities, so some people can go on activities and some people can stay back at the hotel. Some people can maybe even not go on the trip at all. Because some people don't like trips, and that doesn't make them a person who doesn't love family or a person who isn't fun or a person who isn't good. I think movies have kind of ruined that for us. The movie always wants to show the good person is the free spirit and the person who's open to new opportunities, and the loser is the person who doesn't want to try new things and wants to stick with what they know or what they like. But some people do just know what they like and know what they like to do, and they genuinely enjoy it and they're having a good time, and they don't need to throw that away to be some other kind of person. And there's trade-offs for all of those kinds of things. One of the things that I liked about our trip, and where my daughters and I share similarities in our personality, is we like to have a plan. We like to know where we're going. We like to have goals. We like to know what we're doing. We like to know what's next. We don't have a big Excel spreadsheet, but we shared a note in our iPhones, and we had a list of things to do, and people looked things up ahead of time. Where's a good bookstore? Where's a good yarn shop? What's a good restaurant? I put on things to do. My daughter helped us navigate to where we needed to go. Both of my daughters looked up. I never looked up a restaurant or anything. They handled all of that because there was nobody who was like, let's just wake up and see where the day takes us. And we did have some of those spontaneous opportunities along the way to other stuff, right? Like we were walking through Amsterdam to something else, and we came across this really cool bookstore, and we spent like 30 minutes there. We got to Cologne, and it was Good Friday, and everything was closed, it seemed like. Most things were closed. Most stores, most restaurants were closed, especially in the place that we parked at the beginning. And then we stumbled across this cathedral that my daughter had heard about, and it turned out to be packed. It was Good Friday. It's, the tallest two-spired church in the world, the most visited landmark in Germany. It's a World Heritage Site. It's the second or third tallest church in the whole world. It's amazing. I mean, Notre Dame is famous in France, but this makes that look like, like your local, like your local church in your community. This thing was amazing. 515 feet tall. I mean, I can't imagine living back then in the shadow of this place. It was absolutely phenomenal. We got to walk through it and experience it on Good Friday, on the weekend of Easter. And we didn't really think about it being Good Friday. We didn't know that church was that famous. We didn't know we'd have that opportunity. And as we drove into town, we noticed there was a river walk and there were restaurants down there. So we headed down there to find some lunch, and we found a relatively authentic German place and had some German food and got to sit by the river and watch the boats go by right next to this famous bridge, which we then visited after that. So we had spontaneous experiences on our way to things that we had planned. And so that's another thing to think about with your vacation personality is, do you have any buffer in there between the plans, or do you like to have everything planned out and kind of move from one thing to the other without really putting your head up? Do you like a light plan like we had, where you have some things that you'd like to do, but you also have some extra time and buffer built in? Or do you like to have nothing planned and not even go to anything and have any almost opportunities to kind of float around? So I just think it got me thinking about it. I wanted to do a whole episode on it. I think it's important, if you want a good life, if you want a happy life, if you want a fulfilling life, if you want good relationships, you need to understand yourself. And you need to understand the people around you, and you need to accept and appreciate yourself, and you need to accept and appreciate the people around you. And that really is even more important on vacation, where people come to it with different ideas of what a good vacation is and what the right way. That's such a dangerous idea, what the right way to do vacation is. And if you don't want to do it their way or the right way, you're doing it the wrong way. And so then we shame family members or friends for not wanting to go on activities or for wanting to do too many activities. We talk bad about Marge behind her back because she's got such a strict schedule and she's got a spreadsheet, and we don't want to go to all the things on her schedule. But she also shames the people who don't want to do as many things, and the person who's more social shames the people who want to be alone, and the people who are alone shame the people who can't be alone and constantly need to be doing things and want to talk about the importance of silence and solitude. And we're all selling our perspective as though it's the right one and wishing everybody would get on board with the good way to do things, instead of acknowledging that everybody has different personalities. Everybody has different ways of enjoying their time off. And especially that's the point of a vacation, is to enjoy it, is to feel good. This shouldn't even have the arguments people have about work. Well, the only way to, be better at work is to toughen up and get stronger and fight through it. That's some of the arguments people use for not having work that fits your personality, but you certainly should have a vacation that fits your personality. What's the point of going on a vacation to toughen you up or whatever? Like, that doesn't seem to be the point at all. This seems to be to rejuvenate, to recharge. And again, our personality, activities that match our personality is what energizes us. That is how we recharge. And some people are going to recharge through doing things, and other people are going to recharge through doing nothing. And then there's a lot of variations in between. And so I think it's important, before you damage your relationships with your immediate family or your extended family, before you damage your relationships with your spouse or your partner, before you damage your relationships with your children, or think this is an opportunity to teach them some kind of lesson or something like that, think of it as an opportunity to learn about each other, to understand each other, and practice accepting and appreciating each other, but also being aware of who you are and gradually refining that over time to create better and better experiences over time, instead of just saying it's good to go to Disney, or you should want to go to Hawaii, or it's going to be so great to go to Australia. Well, if someone doesn't want to be on an airplane for 16 hours, if somebody doesn't really have the physical capacity for managing the time change of 16 hours between where they come from and Australia, if somebody doesn't want to go on tours every day, they're going to have a miserable time and need a vacation from their vacation. And I think that's a good test, right? When you get back from your vacation, you'll know if it matched your personality, if you need a vacation from your vacation, or if you feel like you're ready to get back to whatever it is that your regular life is. And also, that's a good test as well, is a great life is a life you don't need a vacation from, right? A work that you don't need a vacation from, that you're not dreading coming back to the real world, because what you're coming back to is just as good or maybe even better. I mean, I've already got my cowboy hat on. I'll only be in North Carolina for 19 hours, 4 o'clock yesterday until about 11 a.m. Today. Not even 24 hours. And I'm excited to go to TMT. I'm excited to see a lot of my colleagues and a lot of the people that I've worked with over the years. I'm excited for the speaking competition that I do the coaching for. I'm excited to make people laugh. I'm excited to introduce Dr. Phil. I'm excited to introduce Andre Norman. I'm excited to be on a big stage with bright lights. My day this week in Dallas might be as exciting or more exciting, just in a different way than my week was in Europe with my daughters. And so that's a goal as well. And another way to understand yourself is, our vacations needing to do too much heavy lifting for you because the life you bring to that vacation is so difficult and desperate that vacation needs to be a rehabilitation for you. It needs to be therapy for you. It needs to do a lot of work in a few days. And so you feel that pressure on that vacation. That's a good sign that you want to take a look at the rest of your life as well and say, why do I need this vacation so badly? And how can I live a life that I don't need a vacation from, or at least not as strongly as I feel that right now? So that was the question for today. What's your vacation personality? Are you all day, every day, do it all from sun up till sundown, and maybe a little before sun up to a little after sundown? Or are you a toes in the sand, relax, kick back, spend a lot of time in the room? I know my youngest daughter, her favorite restaurant for years has been room service, and she's always disappointed when we're at a Hampton Inn or something that doesn't have it. She has no interest in local food, for example, or even leaving the hotel room, much less the hotel a lot of times. And I'm okay with that now that I understand that. I take her on trips and I know we're not going to explore that much. She doesn't care that much. She doesn't want to see that much. And she just likes to go and, see what kind of room service they have, give them a rating from 1 to 10. So what is your vacation personality? Learn that, learn about yourself, learn about the people around you, the people that you love, especially if you're going to take vacations with them. understand yourself better, accept and appreciate those people, and build a vacation and a life that matches them. That's real happiness. That's real success. So snuck this one in. Like I said, it feels like afternoon to me. It's early morning. You can see the sun. That's my imperfection from this episode. Is I'm doing this so early in the morning that my lighting is a little messed up because the sun's coming in low through the window off to my left. My lighting is also probably not optimized for my cowboy hat because that kind of blocks things from the top, and it's getting in the way of my freak sign in the background there. So that's one of the imperfections, but I'm pumped to have gotten this one in for this week. I think I'm going to take my stuff. In fact, I already packed up my stuff to maybe do a podcast from Dallas at the TMT boot camp. So I hope you all have a great week. I will see you next week without the cowboy hat, without the pink jacket, talking more about imperfection. Again, don't forget to send in your questions, send up your comments. I got a lot of great comments on TikTok about my Honda discussion from the last episode, and people talking about what a car does and doesn't need to do for you. You know, that would have been a whole way to talk about that, right? What's your car personality? Do you want it to be exciting? Do you want it to be reliable? Do you want it to attract others to you? Do you want it to impress other people? Do you want it to be functional? Do you want it to be practical? What do you want from your car? This kind of stuff applies to everything once you start paying attention to it. And I love paying attention to it. So we will see you next week on the Imperfectionist Podcast. Remember, be aware of who you are, accept who you are, appreciate who you are, but also do the same for others. Be aware of who the people around you are, understand them, accept them, and don't just accept them. Appreciate them. You'll have a better life. You'll be more fulfilled. You'll be more happy, all the while being more imperfect.